Issue 85. We start out with Eggman having the cool-looking Sonic robot from that capsule in SA1 vowing revenge on Sonic, and then we see the Freedom Fighters being celebrated by the city's people for their efforts saving the whole city from total annihilation. Well, it's a good thing he put the word total in there, because they still didn't prevent Station Square from being flooded. Also, it says farewell Mobians and not farewell Freedom Fighters, but I guess the more polite latter would be too long for a parade banner. Just then, that very same robot Sonic shows up to fight Sonic. And his dialogue has a lot of charm because he actually talks like Sonic does. Like Eggman actually put in the effort to give a robot Sonic a Sonic personality. Although there's still the annoying hyphens in his text that make it harder to read. Sonic leads the heat-seeking missiles away from everyone, fortunately actually knowing that they're heat-seeking and only targeting him somehow, because otherwise that would have been quite a tragedy. I felt sorry for Tails when the robot grabbed him by the leg and threw him at Big. That logically should have injured him. And it's especially heart-wrenching since this robot had formerly spoken just like Sonic, but still greeted Tails with a cold, get lost kid. Silver Sonic 2 removes the main support column of the building it's in to collapse it into debris. Fortunately, Sonic spin dashed underground to prevent himself from getting hurt, and keeps fighting him, endearingly grabbing his leg and saying, "Mind if I tag along?" Nicole then proceeds to somehow know stuff about this robot because plot convenience, saying that her files indicate that this is an upgraded version of the Super Robot. What's Super Robot? And how would she have files on Eggman's inventions? This power would have made so much more sense if she was made by Eggman, but she wasn't. Then she knows because plot convenience that Silver Sonic's power supply is infinite. Does it have a Chaos Emerald? Nate figures that reprogramming it may be the key to defeating it. Well, you'd have to knock it out first. Tails catches Sonic, only to get stunned from a kick in the head and just barely manage to fly Sonic down to the ground. Sonic looks like he's boiling with rage and attacks Silver Sonic, taking his head part off, all to defend his little brother. Tails is still conscious at this point, but surprisingly they actually have the guts to show a bump on his head while he's looking dazed, indicating an injury, and it's fur colored at that to make it blend in better with his head. Sally points out that there might be nothing stopping Eggman from taking over the city after they leave it, and then we see Eggman brag that he installed a homing device in Silver Sonic which would allow him to locate it effortlessly, and then brag that he can simply repair the robot and call it a day. That makes this victory feel kinda hollow, a sense of dread to it. We see the Freedom Fighters being told goodbye, with Tails having a bandage over the part of his head that wasn't hurt, that shouldn't be covering the bump at all, but somehow does as we don't see it anymore. I'm impressed that they actually remembered he was hurt and showed him injured after it happened. Big says that he'd rather go back home. They have Bunny actually point out that Antoine's stating the obvious, and the Freedom Fighters special crashes after an unusually turbulent ride. The Freedom Fighters leave the airship after lampshading how lucky they are that no one was hurt, and Sally says that she'd like to search for any signs of life. Then I feel pretty bad for Amy, as after she awkwardly tries to ask if she can help them in any way to prove herself, clearly feeling like she's more of an outsider, Sally menacingly glares at her like she's an outcast and says cold-heartedly, "Don't even think about it." You really have a low opinion of her, don't you? Well, to be fair, the only thing Amy's ever done so far is get kidnapped, so there's no reason for her to have any faith in her, and I don't exactly trust her either. Nate then explains that the airship had been sabotaged, somehow. Was it Silver Sonic? And Silver Sonic then tells Eggman that he's been fully reprogrammed by Nate to serve as protector of Station Square. Wait, he knows that he's been reprogrammed and is fine with it? I guess that was also part of the reprogramming. But yeah, this is awesome. I thought this wouldn't happen so soon at first because we didn't see Nate approach him after he was defeated. I'm glad he's able to be a hero for now. And the story ends with Eggman making a stupid pun that makes no sense for him to want to say in universe. The next story starts out with Rotor's Bathysphere submarine from way early on sinking, and he hopes that someone will get his distress signal explaining his coordinates. Then we learn from Rotor recapping that the Arctic Freedom Fighters had contacted him with the good news, and all of Rotor's family and so on had magically regained their free will after a year. But conveniently, they couldn't remember anything that happened while under Eggman's influence. For months, Rotor was happy spending time with him, until one morning when he woke up with the entire herd of walruses reverted back to their original state for no reason. He had locked himself in a sub, which the herd started attacking and threw it into the water. Unfortunately, Rotor wakes up having been helped by someone, and thus ends the story, right back to where we started. Well, that was pointless. The writer of this issue is Carl Bollers, and the first story is all about Sonic fighting Silver Sonic 2. So it's pretty awesome that I finally got to see that cool looking robot Sonic that was kept in the tube not being used, actually being used for a story. He fights him until he defeats him in a protective rage for kicking his little brother in the head, which is a good character moment for him. And then they all crash in the airship because it was sabotaged by someone. I really like that Silver Sonic 2 is reprogrammed to be a protector of the city, and that he's always talked like Sonic, so he feels more like he has a personality and effort put into him. But it doesn't change the fact that Eggman knows where the hidden city is now. So I hope Silver Sonic alone is competent enough to defeat any of the threats Eggman would send to him. And the second story has the entire conclusion of Rotor's family being brainwashed being glossed over in a quick recap. It's nice that he got to spend months with his family, but then they just get re-brainwashed just as inexplicably as their unbrainwashing. I mean, I don't understand. If it was the neutron bomb again, why wasn't Rotor affected? Why didn't Eggman take perfect advantage of the opportunity to brainwash Rotor? They would have lost Rotor. I mean, the only explanation I can think of is that he managed to flip a switch in their brains to bring them back to re-brainwashing. Like they all had chips in their brains. But then, that still doesn't explain why they were unbrainwashed. Why would he program the chips to unbrainwash people after a year of inactivity? And worst of all, it was never explained how they survived being stranded in the sea on an ice floe with no food or clean water. So the one plot thread I expected to be resolved in the story was just ignored, just like I thought it would be. And it ends with them being brainwashed again anyway somehow, making the whole thing feel pointless. They really didn't care about Rotor, did they?